Welcome to the Deep Dive. We dig into the sources so you get the key takeaways. Today we're looking at some really dramatic shifts happening within the U.S. military, things that have apparently left the defense establishment quite shaken.
Yeah, our source material for this deep dive is based on excerpts from an article called Trump's Military Restructuring Backfires, Unprecedented Troop Exodus. So, our mission today, to unpack this controversial restructuring plan, what it was, the immediate impact it had on troops, and what it all means for national readiness and morale. We want to give you a really clear picture of what's been going on. Okay, so let's start with the core issue. Former President Trump called for this, pretty significant military restructuring, caused quite a stir. What was this plan, the one they called the Patriot Defense Initiative? What was it actually supposed to do?
Right. So the main goal here, according to the article, was to really shift the military's focus away from the kind of traditional overseas stuff and more towards domestic deployments, and also these politically charged border security missions. Now, it was presented, as a way to cut costs and modernize things, a modernization strategy. But the criticisms that the source mentions were pretty sharp. People were arguing it didn't just undermine traditional military priorities, but that it also kind of blurred the lines between actual defense and what critics called political showmanship.
Political showmanship.
Yeah.
It's quite a phrase.
Yeah.
Does the article give any sense of why they felt that way? Or, I guess, what the supposed strategic upside was from the proponent side?
Well, the source suggests the proponents really framed it as boosting border security, and being better prepared for domestic issues. They argued it'd make the military more relevant to immediate sort of national needs and save money too. But the critics, they saw focusing on these politically sensitive border missions as fundamentally using the military the wrong way, taking resources from core defense jobs.
Okay, so different views on the strategic value.
Exactly. And the impact on the soldiers themselves. That seems to have happened almost right away, didn't it? The numbers really seem to show how strong the reaction was once this plan got announced.
Oh, absolutely. The article says within weeks, just weeks of the announcement, reports started coming out. We're talking thousands of troops filing resignation papers or asking for early discharge. It wasn't just a few disgruntled people. This was, apparently pretty widespread.
Yeah, widespread seems right. The defense analysts quoted in the source, they're calling it one of the largest voluntary exits from the military in recent memory. That's significant. And to give you a real sense of the feeling, there's a quote from an anonymous senior Army official. They said, and I'm quoting here, "Morale has plummeted. Soldiers feel like they're being used as political tools rather than being allowed to serve with honor and professionalism."
Wow. Political tools. That really hits hard, doesn't it? To feel like that instead of, serving with honor. That must be incredibly demoralizing. And it looks like that feeling turned into action pretty quickly, Washington noticed.
Oh, definitely. An exodus like that. It would absolutely send shockwaves through Washington.
Lawmakers from both parties started demanding answers, right? Accountability, wanting the policies reversed.
Exactly. The Senate Armed Services Committee, that's the big congressional body overseeing the military, they actually called for emergency hearings. They wanted to investigate what they called a crisis of confidence among the troops.
A crisis of confidence. Okay, so things are escalating. How did former President Trump react to all this? The article says he doubled down.
Yeah, it mentions him blaming deep state generals, that term suggesting a hidden bureaucracy fighting him and fake news for twisting things. And he apparently insisted, quote, "I'm restoring strength to our military. The quitters can go."
The quitters can go. Well, if you look at the bigger picture, the numbers seem to paint a slightly different reality than that statement. The thing is, the U.S. military was already having trouble with recruiting. There were shortfalls even before this. Things like changing demographics, different public views on military service, fewer people meeting the standards, health or education-wise, that kind of thing. And there's been sort of drop in families having generation after generation serve.
Right. Those were existing challenges.
Exactly. So now you add this exodus of experienced people on top of this recruiting problems. It just makes things worse. And national security experts are quoted warning that if this keeps up, the U.S. could end up with critical readiness gaps. Critical readiness gaps. What does that actually look like? Does it mean we can't deploy quickly or maybe struggle in certain regions? Because that sounds especially worrying. With global tensions being what they are, Eastern Europe, the South China Sea, the Middle East, it's a tense world.
That's precisely the worry, yeah. Experts fear it could mean we're less able to handle, say, multiple threats at once, or just find it hard to keep up long deployments. So what was supposed to project strength, seems to have actually exposed some pretty serious fractures inside the armed forces. The situation is described in the source as one of America's most serious internal challenges in decades.
Decades.
Yeah. So it's not just about feelings or morale, although that's huge. These are potentially foundational cracks that could affect America's strategic position.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Well, it really underscores how important it is to understand these internal dynamics within the U.S. military. These aren't just abstract policy debates. They could have real consequences for national security and how the country is seen globally. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about. Considering everything we've discussed, the fractures, this crisis of confidence, soldiers reportedly feeling like political tools, how might this whole period change the way military service is viewed in the U.S. in the long run? Its appeal, the public perception, maybe long after these specific headlines fade. Something definitely worth mulling over.
Yes, thanks for watching. Stay updated with Global Scope 360. Thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon.